Welcome back to the channel, My Latin Life. Today we're focusing on why obtaining residency in Mexico should be on your radar. Mexico is positioning itself as a top destination for those looking to relocate or diversify their living options. Mexico works really well as both a plan A and a plan B. So let's get into why Mexico's residency is not just smart, but an absolute no-brainer for you and your family. First off, let's talk about the ease of getting a residency visa in Mexico. Whether you're looking for temporary residency, which can be renewed and eventually lead to permanent status, or you're aiming straight for permanent residency, the process is relatively straightforward. You can apply with various proofs of financial solvency like income, investments, or even property ownership in Mexico. There's no need for a hefty initial investment like some countries demand, making it accessible for a broader range of people. In other words, yes, there are paths to Mexico residency that involve investing in Mexico, such as starting a business or buying property in Mexico. But the most typical path to residency in Mexico, all you got to do is show proof of income or show some bank statements. Both income and savings work, as we've outlined in other videos. And you don't have to invest a dime. All you got to do is print out some bank statements, print out some income statements, and they'll give you residency, which is huge. The financial requirements for Mexican residency are quite reasonable as well when compared globally. So for temporary residency, you might need to demonstrate a monthly income or savings that aligns with Mexico's minimum wage. So it's based on Mexico's minimum wage, and the threshold actually goes up every year as the minimum wage in Mexico go up. Right now in 2025, the income requirements are around $4,000 per month. That's net income hitting your bank account. Okay, so that's after taxes. And it used to be a couple of years ago that it was like $1,800, $2,000 a month of income that you needed to prove. Now it's up to around $4,000. It depends where you apply. Different consulates have different requirements. Also depends on the exchange rate, but it's anywhere from $3,800 to $4,200 is what we're seeing right now. And the second point there is that the general trend with residencies in general is that requirements just keep going up and up. They keep making it harder. They keep adding more requirements, not just in Mexico, but really that's the trend globally. So the takeaway is that when you see a residency that works for your situation and you qualify and things line up, you really got to take advantage of it. So if you meet the Mexico income requirements, either income or savings requirements, pounce on this opportunity right away. Let's get you Mexico residency right now, because it's just going to keep getting harder and harder in the future. My Latin Life, by the way, we're a full-scale immigration firm. We cover not just Mexico, but every country in Latin America, actually. And we've helped dozens of people get residency in Mexico. We've helped people get citizenship in Mexico. So we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. Okay? Another word on the flexibility of Mexico residency. So this flexibility makes it feasible for retirees, digital nomads, or really anyone with a moderate income to qualify. And once you have temporary residency, after 4 years, you can transition to permanent residency without needing to re-prove financially. Okay, so once you're in, you're in. And then another cool thing about the flexibility is there's very low physical presence requirements, where we really only need you in Mexico for the renewals of your residency. We recently had a guy, he hadn't been to Mexico in 3 years, and he came back to renew to permanent residency, and they didn't ask any questions. he was able to renew to permanent residency successfully. And so that just speaks to, low physical presence requirements, which is pretty much the holy grail. That's what everybody's looking for, is a residency that you can maintain with low physical presence. And then that way it can work as a plan B. And maybe you can get it as a plan B for your whole family. And if you start on temp, well, you're working towards permanent residency. And permanent residency in Mexico truly is permanent. There are a lot of permanent residencies around the world where they say it's permanent residency, but you have to spend half the year there, or you have to visit every 6 months, or these relatively onerous requirements, whereas permanent residency in Mexico truly is permanent, and you can be working towards that and also work towards citizenship as well. So all these things combined is why Mexico residency truly is a no-brainer. Now let's dive into one of Mexico's biggest draws, its cost of living. In many parts of Mexico, you can enjoy a high quality of life for a fraction of what you'd spend in the US, Canada, or Europe. From housing to groceries, entertainment, and healthcare, Mexico offers affordability without compromising on the richness of life. This aspect is particularly appealing for retirees who seek to maintain an active, enjoyable life without the financial strain. A lot of people in the US, they just can't afford to retire. What's the number? You need what? Like $2 million to retire in the US these days? And most people simply don't have that. But you come down to Mexico where, you can live very well on $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month. You can have spectacular health care. You can have community. There's tons of other retirees all over the country. So you can have all these conveniences, and really some conveniences that you can't even get in the US. You can get really good health care, elder care, live-in care. You can get doctors to see you right away. You can get so many different medications over the counter or with a very simple prescription. You can see specialists much faster. What else? Deliveries work better. You can get a maid. You can get a private chef. You can get gardeners very cheap. All these conveniences that are essentially out of reach for the average American finally become affordable in Mexico. Speaking of lifestyle, Mexico is renowned for its cultural richness, friendly locals, and a climate that's hard to beat. So many different climate zones. So whatever you're looking for, if you want that mountain vibe, the beach vibe, the city vibe, whether you're into the bustling city life in Mexico City, maybe the historical charm of San Miguel de Allende, or the serene beaches of the Yucatan or Oaxaca, there's a place for every taste. The cultural depth here is insane. From music to dance to cuisine, all the different regions of the country. It honestly provides an enriching environment where you can immerse yourself, feel young again, you're learning again, you're improving yourself, you're learning Spanish, you're learning different cultures. I've spent years in Mexico and I'm still learning stuff about the culture every day because there's 32 states in Mexico and they all have very different cultures and traditions, and the traditions truly run deep. Back to healthcare for a second. So healthcare in Mexico has seen significant improvements over the years, offering another compelling reason to consider residency. I think it's not an exaggeration to say that healthcare in Mexico is better than healthcare in Canada. It's better than healthcare in the US for 90% of people. It's better than public healthcare in Europe. In urban centers in Mexico, you can access both public and private healthcare services, with private healthcare being notably more affordable compared to many Western countries. You can do public healthcare in Mexico, and it's free, and you basically get it included in your residency if you're really on a budget, but it's plagued by the same problems that public healthcare is plagued by all over the world. Long wait times, maybe substandard facilities. But the private healthcare is so cheap. It's so good. You can pay $50 for an appointment with a specialist, right? You could go to the emergency room and stay overnight, and it might only cost you like $160. That happened to me. So, by the way, the English level, especially among Mexican doctors, is very good. Many are US trained or educated. The quality is very high. The facilities are very good. You can get MRIs. You can get, whatever. What's it called? Any kind of dental treatment that you need, root canals and all that stuff. So the quality is very high. They have the best quality machines, especially in Mexico City and Monterrey and some of the big cities. So you're really not missing out on much. Moving on a bit, so Mexico's geographical position is advantageous as well for those who love to travel or need to maintain connections with North America. Proximity is a really big benefit here with direct flights to many US and Canadian cities. You're never far from home, making it an ideal place for those who wish to keep close ties with family or business back north. There's also more and more flights every year to Europe. I find that a lot of the flights to Europe actually fly through Cancun, not Mexico City, because a lot of people are going on vacation and stuff. So if you're from Europe or you go to Europe a lot, you might consider wanting to base up in the Riviera Maya or in the Yucatan Peninsula for cheaper flights and more flight connections. But if you're connected with the US and Canada, particularly the US, I mean, the connections are insane. Like pretty much every US city has direct flights to Mexico. Okay. The path to citizenship in Mexico is another compelling factor. After 5 years of residency, you can apply for citizenship and travel on a Mexican passport. You can get a Mexican passport. We have dedicated videos talking more about the citizenship process in Mexico that go into more detail. So check that out on our channel. P.S. Be sure to subscribe to the channel because we're just dropping daily videos on Mexico and Latin America, passports, residencies, lowering your taxes and all that stuff. But long story short, in order to get Mexican citizenship, you only need to do 18 months of physical presence in Mexico, which really shouldn't be that much of a sacrifice because Mexico is probably the best lifestyle country in the Western Hemisphere. The lifestyle in Mexico is amazing, from the beaches to the coffee, the dynamism. It's really just got everything, the food. So spending 18 months in Mexico, not too much of a sacrifice to, on the other side, get Mexican citizenship and get that Mexican passport for you, for your whole family, for your descendants. It really is a great thing to have. And that whole process in terms of getting a Mexican passport starts with getting Mexico residency for most people. So let's get you residency, get you working towards permanent residency, get you working towards citizenship, right? And for entrepreneurs or for those interested in starting a business, Mexico's growing economy and various business-friendly policies are very attractive. It's very easy to spin up a business in Mexico. We have lawyers that can do it for you. Mexico also has close connections with Canada and the US via NAFTA, and so there's preferential trade conditions. And setting up a business is less bureaucratic than in many developed nations, especially compared to Europe, with lower operational costs to boot. I know a lot of people who start businesses in Mexico or base themselves in Mexico, and maybe they spin up a US LLC, but they're really running that US business for Mexico. So for Mexico, you can run a Mexican business, or you can run a US business, or even like a Panamanian business, right? We recently just had a client. He's like an Indian guy living in Dubai in the UAE, and he started doing more and more business with the US, but he didn't have a US visa. So he came down to Mexico. We set him up with the US LLC. We got a Mexico residency. And then he's inviting his business partners and relationships from the US to Mexico. And he's saying, hey, come down to Mexico for a week. Let's party, let's come hang out in Playa del Carmen or Guadalajara, whatever it is. And he's able to do business with the US from a base in Mexico. Okay. Let's do a quick mention of taxes. I have other videos about taxes as well, but Mexico's approach to taxes and income tax is worth noting. While there are no specific tax benefits for foreigners, the overall tax system is set up that it's a center of economic life test. And so unless your center of economic life is Mexico, you're really not going to have to pay income taxes to Mexico. I'm not a Mexican tax guy, so I'm just a guy on the internet. Take everything with a grain of salt here. But if you're on a temporary residence visa, Mexico's not really looking to tax you. If you're a permanent resident in Mexico, but your ties are very minimal, like you don't have, kids in Mexican school and you don't have a house in your name and so forth, Mexico's still not looking to tax you. It's really only if you naturalize and become a Mexican citizen that you need to start being careful about Mexican taxes. But as a resident, you're really not going to owe taxes in most situations unless you have really, really significant ties like property in your name, kids in school, Mexican business, tons of money coming into Mexican bank accounts and so forth. But as long as your footprint in Mexico is light, such that it's very clear that Mexico is not your economic center of life, you should be fine. In closing, the combination of a straightforward residency process, low cost of living, high quality lifestyle, accessible healthcare, strategic location, and a clear path to permanent residency and citizenship makes Mexico an unbeatable choice for residency. Whether you're looking to retire, start anew, or simply diversify your options for yourself and your family, Mexico's residency program stands out as a no-brainer. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content, ring the bell for notifications, and if you want to become our client, you can book a call with us to start the engagement. There's a link in the description below to book a call with us and become our client. You can book a call, or you could literally just order the Mexico residency service directly. I'll put both the links in the description. So order the service if you're ready to start right away, or if you want to do a call first and we can kind of look at your holistic situation and customize things to your goals. Both are cool. And looking forward to working with you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.